Hello, hello. Welcome back. It's Lotus Chat again. We are doing episode 59. Now let's do a quick roll call real quick. Let's say hi, ladies.
Hi, I'm Jenn.
Hi, I'm Laura.
Hi, I'm Jenn.
And I'm Matilda. Hello.
And everyone, I am Jazzy, and we are here with a great topic. We're talking about to hustle or not to hustle. And now this word is such a huge thing in our society these days, and it's, you know, even identified itself as a culture. So let's start with the question, what is? Let's go and define what that means. Well, what about you, Miss Matilda? What's your take on?
What? I was having an interesting thought because I remember when I was younger, you used to have a side hustle. Nowadays, it means that you have generated income. But I think back in the day, it might have meant you had a side piece. You had another person on the side besides your main. So it's kind of evolved through the years what that word actually means. But hustle means that that's when you're really going for it. You got some goals set and you're really going after it. You're going after it in every aspect of your life. So hustle can mean different things to whoever is applying that principle to their life at that time. Yeah? What about you, Laura? Laura, what about you?
I'm sorry, I
Okay.
didn't hear the Laura part.
Oh,
For me, yeah, I agree with Matilda. The word has changed meanings, but for me, right in the here and now, hustle is actually for me a pace. It, instead of being a slow, methodical, well thought out, it's speeded up. So for me in this topic, I think hustle means you have an end goal, but you're going to get there as quickly as possible. Or you may have several goals simultaneously and we're getting there as soon as possible. For those of you who are listeners who are moms, you know all about this. If you're working and you have kids and you're in the minivan driving them, and then if you have a partner that is expecting you to be certain places, that's called hustle. Lots of end results, but you're trying to get there as quickly as possible. Cian, what does hustle mean to you?
Interesting when you say about the part that, you know, as a mom, you know, you got to do everything. That made me think about a thought for a while. But to me, I think hustle it's a mindset, you know, it's a mindset of wanting more, doing more, be more. Everything is, you know, do it, get it at the cost of, I don't know, at times yourself, and just really getting it, you know. And I think when we hustle, sometimes unknowingly we get that sense of an urgency culture too, which we'll probably talk a little bit more later. But what do you think, Jenn?
You guys all described it so well. And can I say shout out to all the moms out there that are watching us who are wearing multiple hats and making things happen and just being amazing. I mean, and the dads too, who are in that role as mom and dad, who are also hustling. Beautiful. I like anyone who's in a mom or dad figure. And I, you know, for me, when I thought about the word hustle, a lot of what Matilda said rang pretty true to me, but also the feelings that Laura said, that how sometimes it can get so busy, so crazy. So like, sometimes you may lose time with other things, like you may lose yourself in the hustle and the bustle. But I think when I look at my life, the way I've defined hustle is there have been points in my life where I felt like I had to hustle because I had an end goal result. So like when I was younger, the goal that was to hustle to get good grades so that I could go to a good college, so that I could, you know, have that major that would get me where I wanted to go. Now, as I'm older, what is the hustle? The hustle is have that job that makes the money so you can have the home that you've dreamed of and the life that you've dreamed of. And that also kind of goes in line with relationships. Like, how is everything that I'm doing, how's the hustle going to help me have my ideal relationship? Sometimes that comes in my mind too. Like, you know, the right financial situation for me will be able to assist in the right relationship when I finally do come together with a partner. So that is the reasons why I know now in my life later that I'm hustling and and wanting to put those things in place to help me get to those goals. So that is what hustling means to me. But the question that we can ask ourselves now is, based on all of our definitions, are we really accomplishing more when we do hustle? So Jazzy, I'm going to go to you.
That is a great question. Are we accomplishing more, or are we getting busted by the hustle? Is the bustle hustling us? That is the question. I guess it's how can we maintain alignment within the hustle? I feel like for me it's shifted from actually, like, how can I put myself into alignment with life, allow things to come and flow to me while still having my plans, my systems, my strategies, my goals, my targets, and still keeping the gumption of the hustle, but not getting grinded by it. Because I also, when I hear hustle, I also hear the grind. And when I hear the grind, I feel like that's what's happening to my life. It's being grounded out. And it can be a lot. Like, as you said, like, I do have a toddler. I do have my ambitions and my goals that I'm working on that are like, they're essentially all side hustles. And it has to be flexible upon what does my daughter's day look like? So is it going to be something where I'm on the computer? Am I creating through books? Like, am I writing? Like, it's more of like, that gets to be flexible. And so I guess what I'm accomplishing is creativity and innovation within my hustle, because I definitely want to subscribe to my alignment, and I'm getting better at exercising the balance within it all, because I realized that my hustle was so hard prior to having my daughter, that there wasn't a balance and I was burning out, and even throughout having her, and that's been, you know, that cost things. So how can I make life work for me within that? Is definitely by just maintaining the vision, being gracious with myself. Even those are like small wins that I know that are very important for me to be able to just maintain some sort of peace within the flowing of things. So what do you think, Miss Laura?
I'm Jazzy. I remember being in your phase of life. I'm in a different one. My little one is now 27, and he doesn't need mom in the same way. So my life is a lot slower kid-wise. And I worked so long hustling in my career so that I could make it, so that I could be somebody, so that I could reach success. And what I realized is, now that I've reached it, you don't have to be going fast. It happens anyway. You just are more methodical. I am more methodical, more strategic, and more, what I've learned is life flows. So for instance, if I start feeling I need a new client, it's amazing how that new client comes without me going out and renting a billboard and getting on a TV show or getting 1,000 followers on Facebook. It happens and flows through word of mouth. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to go the frenzied pace to accomplish. In fact, sometimes it can halt you. For me, because I didn't see all the signs along the way, I was looking at the end result. If you allow yourself to, what I've learned is, if I allow myself to look at where I'm at, the steps I'm taking, and the flow, things unfold, and then it's like a gift. I'm like, whoa, a client came to me. That's pretty cool. What a surprise. Or, wow, this new house opened up to me. Great. You know, it's a little bit different pace than I'm used to, but I'm learning that I missed a lot of things going too fast. How about you, Cian?
I love that when you talk about, how hustling comes at different phase of your life. And I agree with you. I think back then when I was single with no kids and I worked at my first job, I was definitely hustling. I was doing probably 12 hours in L'Oreal. But the thing is, I loved it. I remember I loved that energy, that vibe, that momentum, the craziness, like the creativity comes in even though I was hustling. But then it reached to a point that I have to admit, I got a little bit burned out and I didn't even realize it. But I guess I was moving towards a different phase of my life where I want to get married, I want to cook, and I want to have kids, but I'm not able to do that if I was hustling 12 hours in L'Oreal. So that's why I think I have that switch of mindset. So that's why I think having that balance, like what Jazzy said just now, that keyword balance is really important, because at different phase and different season of your life, you need to hustle to get the things that you want. But then when that season has passed, then we move into not to hustle for a while, to slow down, to take care of ourselves when we know we need it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think, and I admit for myself, I think the danger in me hustling back then was that when I hustle, I expect the people around me to hustle. And that I find it very dangerous, that mindset that, if you're hustling, then you go hustle, but you cannot expect everyone around you to hustle with you at your own pace. Maybe to them, they're hustling, but at their pace, it's a different pace, hustling at a different pace. So, yeah, what do you think, Jen?
Deanne, you just said it. You just totally, I was like, snap, Deanne. Yes, I agree. The burnout, I agree. I even remember, because, like I mentioned early on in my life, the hustle to want to do well in every, at school and college and all that, because I had these dreams, these goals. I remember there were times when I just had to take a step back, because I was literally, staying up until 2, 3 in the morning with, things that I had to do to accomplish for my next day's class or whatever project, or planning, how many jobs I was going to go on an interview for. Like, there was I remember that I was on this pace of just I go when I was younger. And then there was a period where I was like, all right, I'm in a good place. I have a good job. I, have my apartment, and, I feel good. But then life happens, and and things started kind of, falling out of place, so to speak. I won't go into detail. And it was right after that that I was like, maybe I need to refocus. I need to figure out, what is it that I really want? Now that I've reached this point, I've had this, what does my life look like moving forward? And for all of you guys out there, I mean, I recommend you do take that time to just check in with yourself rather than go. Because there may be a time when you're like, ooh, I forgot, I haven't slept in the last 12 hours. I need to get some rest. Or I am doing so many errands, I forgot that I had to call somebody that I cared about and loved, who wanted to talk to me about something important. So just check in with yourself. Have those moments where you take a mindful moment, because mental health is important. The hustle and bustle culture will make you feel like your brain has to be on all the time. Even if it is those 10, 15 minutes that you give yourself at night to just turn the brain off. And I will admit, I'm in that hustling mode right now, but I do try to keep some time for myself at the end of the day to meditate, to pray, to journal about, things. And I have a vision board, guys, which is really fun. If you're creative like me, I got this off of Amazon. It is so simple. And it opens up to these little cards that you can fill it with, so that you don't have to necessarily, or you can write your own and just stick it in there. But it gives you something to look at every day for those dreams and goals that you want to accomplish, and create a plan to get there. But don't burn yourself out getting there. And, that's what I think about how you can accomplish the balance. What about you, Matilda?
I think that goes back to, that was beautiful. The initial question that Jazz asked was, are we really accomplishing more when we are hustling? So I think with that question in itself, you really do have to determine what your more is, because we can get so caught up in a hustle that we forfeit those things that are really important. We might really be going for it with that job, that career, but then what? We just sacrifice time with our significant other or with our kids or with our parents, and then you can just get caught up. You can get caught up. So what are you really accomplishing? And I know, Zian, you mentioned something about wanting, I wrote it down, wanting, doing, and being more at the cost of yourself. That was so profound. And that's what happens sometimes when we hustle. We're out there, we want more, we're doing more, we're being more, but it's costing us something. And is it really worth the price that we have to pay? Why can't we just be like Laura is now, but be that way at age 30, where you're just kind of going and flowing, going with the flow and things still happening. And I really believe that's the intent for all of us. Is just, it takes us a while to get there. And so that's a part of the hustle too, getting to that place. So there's always that component of having to push ourselves forward just so we can get to that point where, okay, the hustle has actually slowed and I'm actually enjoying life. Because that's really what it's all about. What you think? Jasmine, you started us out. What do you think?
Yeah, that I love the full circle here. So as you mentioned, like, is it really worth the cost of what we're spending, whether that be our time, money, energy? Is it worth, like, is your ROI, whether that be time, money, energy, really worth what your hustle is? So, because that's essentially what the hustle is about, right? Your ROI, and you don't want to do it for crumbs. So you want to, and you don't want to make sure your energy is not looking like crumbs, and you don't feel like crummy. Like, it has to be worth it. And I guess at the end of it is also realizing, like, what is the why underneath the hustle? Is it family acknowledgement? Is it to prove people wrong? Is it to just be better than who you were yesterday, create a better circumstance for your life and your family, things like that. So as life continues to come at us, that constantly shifts, right? Like the season shift, the hustling time, the rest and recovery time. But within it all, what does balance truly look like? And what is the gauge or the meter to let us know that it's time to balance out the two? Like, I'm curious to know what you ladies do. Is it like, all right, I've hustled X amount of time throughout my life during this decade, this season, or is it broken up quarterly? Is it broken up within a week? Do you hustle hard for 4 or 5 hours in a day, then create the balance that way? Like, what does balance look like for you? And anyone can just jump in here.
For me, there's a term whenever you're performing CPR and trying to resuscitate someone, there's a term called ROSC, ROSC, and that stands for return of spontaneous circulation.
I like that. Return of circular. Wait, say it again.
Return of spontaneous circulation. And that to me speaks to that place of balance where I want to return to the spontaneity. Sometimes when we get caught up in the hustle of life, we're just pushing, and we say no to this, and we say no to that, and no to this. And it can actually take the spontaneity out of everyday experiences, just being able to jump up, go outside, no shoes on, walk around in the grass, in the dirt, and enjoy nature. You know, we lose that because we're so determined to accomplish this goal or something that we have in front of us. So if we can get back to ROSC, for me, my ROSC is routine, organization, systems, and consistency. That's what helps me stay balanced, because I know that, okay, this is how my day is going to start. I've got to stay, or I get to stay organized. I have a system that I use at work for accomplishing things. And if I can be consistent with the other three, then that helps me maintain a balance. And it's a work in progress because things come about that shift me away from my routine or shift me away from the system that I have built that I'm going to utilize to accomplish something at work. But if I can get back to ROSC, then my balance returns, and that spontaneity has opportunity for my circulation, really how I'm circulating, to continue to thrive. So that's how I maintain balance.
Being mindful of your flow is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
And intentional. I like it.
Intentional. I have to be intentional, because if I'm not intentional, I'm like an ADD or something.
You're out of alignment.
Yeah. Or what? Well, that's me.
I love that, Matilda. That's so beautiful. I learned a new term today. And for me, how I find that balance is how I feel when I'm hustling and how I feel when I'm not hustling. So I got to admit, I think there are days when I hustle, and then when I decide not to hustle, but then I'm experiencing a lot of guilt, like, oh, I'm guilty. I'm not hustling right now. I'm doing self-care, but I'm guilty. I couldn't get out of that not hustling mode. But I think to find that fine balance, that concoction, the cocktail of hustling and not hustling for yourself is, I think for me, is how I feel when I'm hustling. I like it. This is what I want to do. This is the goal that I want to achieve. That's why I'm putting in the hours. And then when I'm not hustling, I'm fine. I'm not guilty. I'm enjoying the moment. I love the sunrise. I'm experiencing all this nature that I'm enjoying, that feeling of just really being able to enjoy that moment. That to me is, that's the sign that my body is telling me this is the right amount, Yeah.
Oh, Zian, thank you for sharing that, especially the being in nature part. I've seen so many beautiful places that you have gone, and like just watching them even puts me at ease, because these places exist. And sometimes when you're hustling, you forget to even take a moment to go walk in the park, to go look at a sunset, to go take your car and drive into the desert and just, be in the middle of nowhere under the stars. I mean, the way that I try to balance it out is, I think, in the context of investment, and I think in context of filling my cup. Because there have been many cases where I have poured into something at an empty cup because I wasn't filling my own through, experiences and things that made me happy, made me feel alive. And to tell you the truth, I have not really done, as Jazzy has said, where she, lets her creativity just go, like, be out there. Like, she wants to focus on making sure that there's creativity in her life. When I was younger, it was such a big part of my life, but I got so focused on getting that job and getting XYZ that I have canvases and paints sitting in my closet I haven't taken out in years. And I know how it feels when I get the paint on canvas. I'm like lost in it, and it helps me express myself. Stuff I need to get back into, but clearly I know where I've lost myself in the hustle and the bustle. And so that's something I'm really getting back to now. But I'm also realizing that my dreams are to have like that space of my own, to have that, XYZ. And I know it's possible, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to burn myself out. I'm going to invest in those things that make me feel good, whether it's spending time with loved ones or going on a trip or having like a nice savings so that it's there in case I need it. Like, all those things make me feel secure. So that's how I think about balancing out the hustle and life and love, if I were to put it that way. Yeah. How about you?
That was beautiful, Jen. Thank you. For me, yes, I can balance without hustling. Some listeners may be able to relate to this. Sometimes it's really hard to be the kind of person that can stop and say, I'm going to find balance now. Especially if you have a family or you are caretaking and you have a career and you may be in extracurricular activities And so you just kind of get in that pace and you think if I stop, then everything's going to fall apart. So I got to keep this pace going. And the problem with that is you're giving so much of yourself. And I think, Jen, I hope I'm giving you the right credit here. Jen mentioned filling your own cup. If you're not filling it yourself, you're looking for everybody else to fill it because you're giving out to everyone. The problem is, for me, I couldn't relax. I would go somewhere and I would be thinking, my mind wouldn't turn off. I would think of work. I would think of what I had to do next week. So I could be standing in the middle of a field and it'd be like, when are we going to get home, and tapping on the watch. I knew something was wrong when I would wake up at 2 a.m. and go through my work checklist at 2 a.m. Click, click, click. So sometimes you go so far one way, you don't see the path to get to the middle. And what I found is sometimes you just have to stop and let it go. And I realize for some of you out there, that's going to sound horrible. It's going to sound selfish. You're going to have all these words or adjectives for it. Sometimes you just have to stop in your tracks, turn the voice in your mind off, and just start taking a step at a time. And that's what I did. And my quality of life is so much better. And what's funny is I didn't lose money. In fact, I'm making more. I didn't lose friends. I actually have time for more. But the issue is I'm able to balance all the parts of life. I'm not going so fast that life is running me. And I remember saying to myself, I feel like life is running me, Matt, rather than me running life. And so if you're in that spot, don't be afraid to just drop the plates, because that's the start of something new. Jazzy?
I love that you have created a space to shift your trajectory, because I think what I'm hearing you say and what I feel so deeply is that you knew when to surrender. You knew when to just allow it. And it's like you got enough results to realize, okay, like this is a lot of work. Now I get to live life also and enjoy what you're creating. And like as Jen said, like you got to check in. And we talk about balance and pouring into our cup all the time, because it needs to be reminded. Sometimes it's so easy, especially as women, to be able to just go and keep doing it and saying yes to everything because we can, because we're capable, because we're a boss ass, because we're in that mentality. And then we also realize that we are blessed to take the time to be able to allow our masculine to within us to just see what we need, but nurture the feminine within. And it's just a matter of managing what our energy type is, because to each his own. There's so many like advice and philosophies that a lot of people will put out there that is all about hustle culture, and some people subscribe to it like religiously. And then you have the gurus who also talk about like allowing things to come into flow to you, put your intentions out, and just do a little bit of effort here and there. And I think that once we can kind of bring in like the physical aspects of doing and our spirituality, and also releasing attachment to what this stuff has to look like, I think everything's just going to work out just fine. It's just knowing when to surrender and how to. And I think another question that comes up for me or opens up is when I hear to hustle or not to hustle, the question is, when is the question? Like, when is that perfect time? And as I mentioned earlier, creativity and innovation, but also inspired action. Not forcing myself to just like, oh, I got to do this for this reason, but knowing that it gets to be inspired, it gets to feel good, I get to have fun while I'm hustling. I don't have to feel like I'm just busting sweat and doing all this because, oh, I really have to, because everyone depends on me. And that can also subscribe to like being a martyr, which is like, ask me how I know or what that is. Like, I've been there too. So now it's maintaining that mindfulness, maintaining optimal health mentally, emotionally, and physically, and being excited to hustle. I don't have to feel like I'm grinding it every morning. Oh, same thing, different day. No, it doesn't have to. Like, greatness gets to look different every day. And sometimes your greatness is, you know, bare minimum great, but then there are other days where it's freaking phenomenal. So, yeah. But, okay, now I'm going to sway the question a little bit. Can we achieve balance when we are not hustling? Miss Jenn?
Great question. Can we achieve balance when we are not hustling? I'd like to take that question and answer it by saying, yes, within ourselves. So I would say like that balance that you create in yourself, the alignment that you create by taking time to just not hustle, you could probably come out with a lot of realizations about what you want, where you want to go, the plan that you want to make. And you don't have to be hustling right there in that moment, but it can be inspiring to just take the pause and just sit with yourself for a bit. So in that sense, you are creating that balance. You do have that balance because you're giving yourself time to really listen. And there's like so many quotes out there where they say like, sometimes you learn more in the silence than by doing or by, you know, the noises outside. And it happens. And I've had it happen to me where I've stopped the go, and I've given myself time to think. And I'm like, oh, that's how I really feel about that. Or, oh, that's probably what I should do with that situation or that goal. But anyways, that's how I feel about that question. What do you think, Laura?
I think it is a challenge, because when you're not hustling, then you theoretically have this free time. So then you have to be more disciplined to say, this is how I'm going to structure my time. This is what I'm going to accomplish. It's a wonderful feeling to not have life live you. But when you take the responsibility and the ownership of your life, then you have the responsibility to say, I'm going to spend this much time on this project. This is what I'm going to do in this relationship. I loved your dream board or your vision board. I'm going to plan. So sometimes when you're in that mode of you're not hustling, you're almost like, oh, life is good. So yes, the answer is you have more time to create and to organize, but you have to have the discipline to do it. Otherwise, you just be out playing and going to the swimming pool and going shopping. And so, yes, you can, but you have to have some discipline in order to be productive. How about you, Jenn?
I agree. Having that discipline when you're not hustling.
Yeah.
For me, if I were to answer that question directly, I think it's yes, you can have that balance when you're not hustling, because when you're not hustling, whatever you're doing at that moment when you're not hustling, you're technically, in Stephen Covey's words, sharpening the saw. You know, you're taking the time to really, whether it's that creative moment, whether it's growth, whether it's self-care, you're just sharpening that saw so that the next time when you go back to that 3, or when you are hustling, then you get a sharper mind, you get a stronger sense of self to manage that hustle that you're dealing with.
I think the balance. Oh, my doggy's trying to help me tell you what I was about to say. Yo, shh. Sorry. So I guess I see hustling as an intentional pursuit of a goal or an aspiration, a desire. So for me, when I'm not hustling, I have to intentionally pursue not hustling. So then that's where the balance comes for me, because I have so much going on around me and so many expectations that I meet for other people, that for me to be intentional in just saying, I'm going to stay in bed today and read a book. That is not hustling, but I'm being intentional in my pursuit of that. I'm just going to spend some hours playing the piano or just being quiet or go sit on the porch and sip tea. I have to be intentional in that. I'm not hustling, but because it's an intentional pursuit, you get it? It's kind of like, yeah, well, I'm not hustling, but I'm hustling. So the balance does come by doing nothingness. Nothingness is a beautiful thing. It's just beautiful. So yeah, a little bit of a different perspective on that, but balance can be achieved in the not hustling. Definitely.
Does anyone else want to add something? Have we covered it, or is there something that you want to share that wasn't covered?
I guess I'll just add this little thing, which is create and go with what works for you, what feels good to your energy, whatever season that's you're in. There's so many circumstances, events that inspire where we're at, whether we're hustling or allowing ourselves to be in the nothingness of life and recalibrating and allowing ourselves to just really be present and then going into full on action mode of that that grit and gumption. So just know when to follow your North Star, I guess, is what I'd like you guys to just kind of, and be kind to yourself in the process. And whatever you're doing, do it intentionally, doing with ease and grace, because healing, hustling, it all gets to be ease, grace, and flow. And it's just a matter of making that choice. So, I'm complete.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. This has been wonderful. I have learned so much. Thank you. So to our listeners, if you are watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and put into the comments for us what your definition of hustle is and how it relates to you. If you are listening to us on Spotify, please become a follower so that you can hear us as well. If you have ideas for future segments or you want to reach out to us, we have an email. It's lotuschatworldwide@gmail.com, and we do check it and we value everything that our listeners send to us. So with that, I'm going to say good night, and we will have a session next week. And it is one of those, I hate to tell you this, to be announced. So it will be a surprise. And we will surprise you next week when it's uploaded. So anyway, thank you so much for being here, and enjoy your hustle or your lack of it. Good night.
Good night.